Yo, what's up, guys? So today I kind of wanted to give you a rundown of just really good ways to study for a standardized test. Um, Even like, your ACT, even the SAT and subject tests, just any sort of standardized test that you could take in at high school level. Um, for like upper level, like GRE and stuff, there are different methods, but for the most part, your standardized tests that you take in high school, they all are relatively the same and they're not too difficult to study for. So the first thing I want to like kind of tell you is that you're going to have to, you know, play it by ear depending on how long you have to study. Um, if you only have a month left to before the test, and you want to score highly, like extremely highly, um, and you've not done like any studying and you don't really have a baseline, you're it's gonna be a lot of work. Um, Generally, taking the test for the first time, don't assume that that's gonna be the last time you take it, because for most students, it's not, or it is not the last time that you're gonna be taking it. Um, Very, very few students actually will get like a 34 plus or a 33 plus the first time that they take the SAT or the ACT. Um, so don't expect to get a 35 or a 36 the first time. Kind of just acknowledge the fact that even if you score top like high 20s in the ACT, that's a really good score. Um, there are you're not going to get into like Caltech with it or Stanford. Or I mean you could, but it's not really a competitive score for those types of schools, but it's it's a good score for a baseline for a test that you don't really know anything about. That's incredibly like based on how much you study for it. A high 20 is a good score, a really good score. Uh, like anything like 24 and above for your first time taking is a great score. So don't get all upset that you didn't get a 36 the first time that you took it. Um, just in case you don't know, like I'm gonna be talking pretty much in terms of the ACT most of this video, but my methods and my sites will still apply to at least the SAT. Some of these won't apply to subject tests, but subject tests is a little bit different. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to recommend is that you go to this site called crackact.com. So I'm pretty sure they have like, let me see if they have Crack SAT. They should have crackSAT.com. Um, yeah, I don't really know what this site is, but I know Crack ACT is really reputable. Um, so this is what I mainly used, at least for reading. So you basically what you want to do, depending on your time, you wanna space out. These are like 10 questions. They're just like short 10 question tests, and they're pretty indicative of your success on the actual test. They're uh they're picked up. Some of them are full length as well. They're picked up from like practice books like the Kaplan books or the Barron's or the Princeton books. So while I recommend you pick up one of those books, um these also work. But yeah. So this is just a really good online method to studying the ACT, because you're gonna need paper um like tests to take, but you're also going to want to have some sort of online um component so that you can either see your scores and like the ACT like official online program, like it will actually grade your SAT or your ACT for you and give you like an estimated score. While I have found that those sorts of scores have been really, really, uh, like sort of unconservative, if that makes sense. They're pretty low compared to what you actually will get. Um, they are. they are out there, and I do think it's better. I do think it's nice to have that sort of to have it actually scored according to a real SAT or ACT. So yeah, so I mean like for these you can just go through and do them. You don't really have to do all of them, although I would recommend that if this is the only place that you're getting it from, that you do every single test for every single section. It's like 400 tests, which is like 4,000 questions overall. That's a lot, but that should be all that you would need, honestly. Um, so yeah, for this, that's just one component. Another thing that you can do is go to Reddit. Um, this is what I mainly did. I was involved on the ACT Reddit and the SAT Reddit for my subject tests. So today actually there was an ACT that came out. Um, so everybody here is like, yeah, I got a 35. I'm so proud, sort of stuff. Um, but yeah, just know that majority of the people on this sub, on these two subs, are really really high scorers. Um, I know that these sorts of people here are like if you look at this, you're gonna get like 34, 34, 36, 32, 36, 36, 35. Um, they're just incredibly high scores. So don't get too discouraged. Um, just by seeing like, oh, everybody here is getting 35s and I get a 33, I must like not get into any school, because the vast majority of college admission, at least at top schools, like your MIT, your Harvards, your Vanderbilts, that sort of stuff. Um, these are your ACT is only a small like subsection of it. Um, and like there is a very small difference between um like a 34 and a 36, or even a 33 and a 36. Obviously a higher score is better, but kind of weigh your options, knowing that uh, a 34 and a 36 is not they're not really looked at differently, um, or at least that different. You're not going to get rejected because you have a 33 or a 34, but you're not going to get accepted because of it, and you're not going to get accepted if you have a 36 even still, because ACT is a small section of it. You can compensate for like anything with anything, if that makes sense. If you can write amazing essays, then getting a 31 in your ACT may not matter at all. Um, so yeah, just kind of acknowledge that most of the people here are high scores, and just move on with it, because you're gonna eat yourself up if you're thinking that, oh, if you don't get a 35 on your ACT, you're not going to get into any schools, when in fact it's much more than just that. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of these sites are good. They a lot of them are mainly just like like how like score prediction a lot of times, or it's like what do you guys think? Just questions about the ACT, sort of. Um, just like worrying about the curves. Um, and yeah, when the ACT kind of when the recent ACT kind of rolls over, you get a lot of questions about like is it worth it to take this exam? You even get like links to like actual ACT questions that people are working on, asking for help. So I mean, like it's a community that you can join if you want to like essentially tutor through this on ACT, you can. So yeah, this is a really good community. SAT is also really good. So yeah, the other thing that I would mention is UWorld. So UWorld is essentially UWorld is essentially like an online ACT prep, or SAT prep, or really anything. It has everything from MCAT to ACT to SAT to freaking everything. It has a ton of test prep on here. And really, what it is it's really one of the best like resources for ACT prep, I think. The questions are usually harder than the actual ACT. Um, but I find that they actually do prepare you quite well for it. So just do you can like go through here, pick like all of the like if you marked questions that you thought were hard, you can only do those. You can only do ones you got incorrect. You can do all of them. You can do unused ones. What this P and this Q means is that these mean that there are three passages. So, for example, this is English. So there are three English passages that I've not done. There are 32 overall with 4,800 with uh 480 questions overall. So yeah, there this is really good. It also gives you like a performance chart. Like I'll go in here and it'll like give you like the chart. Um, so you can see like if you've been improving or not. Yeah, you get reports. These are like based on like how many you got right and stuff. Um, just so you know, just to be able to like tell and like equate what these percentages equal to. So I get a 35 on my math, um, with only an 84% on UWorld. So, um, 0.84 times 60. So that would mean that on the real ACT I would have missed like 10 questions. Well, that's like a 28 on it. So they're quite more difficult. Like they're quite difficult on UWorld. Um, I find. Um, so yeah. Um, yeah. I got like probably about like just going from this probably I would have gotten a like maybe a high 20 on English. The omitted is kind of just like a bug where if you exit a test, it'll just score it, but it doesn't. Just don't even worry about the omitted. Um, but yeah, I got a 34 in English, so it's they're pretty like difficult. Which is good. I think that the best way to prep for something is to be over prepared. At least for standardized test. Um, if you're testing um just to like barely get it, you could be blindsided by a difficult passage or by a difficult section, which often happens on the ACT. Um, Generally, what happens is that more than one or like one or two passages, or not passages, but sections are harder than the other two. Um, and that's not even like coming down to like, oh, I'm just bad at math or reading or whatever. It's like some are just like harder than others. So just acknowledge that. Um, so just you really for these tests you really want to be over prepared for them. You can succeed if you're not over prepared. But at that point it really just comes down to a lot of luck. So yeah, the U World does cost money, but if you go to r/ACT or even like r/SAT, there's a there's a there's a U World link somewhere on this side. I think on SAT. Yeah, here it is. Um, you can get a U World 90-day subscription if you just go here and click on it. Um, and then if you need to extend it, you can message this guy. ACT also has it. It's on the side here. Yeah. Um, yeah. Um, there's the ACT prep book, the official one. I'm just gonna start looking at prep books right now. Um, this one, honestly, I don't think that the ACT prep books, like some people swear by them, but I guess this is the most recent one. Some people swear by them, but I really don't. I don't like them. I don't think that the ACT prep book is that useful. Um, you can get it and try it because honestly, having more books is better because the more and more practice, like the ACT, I should have started with this. The ACT and the SAT, they are directly influenced by how much you study. If you study for the ACT, if you study a lot for the ACT, there is no way that you are not going to get a good score on it. There's no way. Um, it's directly proportional to how much you study for it. So don't be like, oh, I studied 15 years for this ACT, but I didn't score that well. Like, why would I study even more? Like, I'm already like, I don't think I'm gonna score 36. You will score 36 if you study enough. It's like you will. Obviously, there are like boundaries that some people face. They face like, I can't get up. I've tried 4 times and I can't get above a 32. Um, but really, to be honest, most people won't encounter that boundary. Um, so yeah, know that studying more will always increase your score. So, um, there are some ACT books that a lot of people swear by. Everybody has their own one that they think is the best because that's what they used. Some people think that the Barron's ACT books, the ACT 36 and then the ACT just the standard one, are really great. Um, I didn't use them. I don't really like Barron's for much else other than my subject tests. Um, so yeah, I'm sure that they're good because Barron's is a pretty quality company, but they generally make good stuff. But I don't really know much about them. Um, the I believe I have this one. I have the Kaplan book, which Kaplan. So a lot of people will say Kaplan is bad for the ACT. They'll say, "Oh, Kaplan, um they don't really make like effective or like they don't it's not a good way to study for it. It's not like the actual real ACT." Um etc., etc. In my situation and in my opinion, Kaplan books are the best. I think that the Kaplan series of books is very good for studying. Um, if you work on it, I really do think that. Um, so yeah, I would recommend this one has online, which I believe I can go to. Let me see if I can get into it. Uh, if not, I can just go over here. Okay, so yeah, this I can't find it right now, but the Kaplan online is quite good. It it's very it does do the ACT scoring, so it'll give you an actual ACT score, and it's tough. Like it'll be worse than what you get on the actual ACT. So um yeah, that's what I gotta say about Kaplan. That it's quite good. I recommend it. Yeah, I know several people that would swear by Kaplan. Um, Generally on Reddit, you're gonna get like a lot of people that don't think Kaplan is good. Um, I don't really know why that is. I think they just don't. I guess they just don't like it. But I think Kaplan's very good. The books that I would recommend getting by them is first of all this book, and then there's one that's like Kaplan. It has like a bunch of practice tests in it. Like it's a huge book and it has like 8 or 9 practice tests in it. Yeah, this one. This one is another one that I would recommend getting. Um, this one and the previous this book and this book is what I used for studying for the ACT. Um, I think that this one might be the most recent one. Um, but yeah, I those though Kaplan is what I would recommend. To at least start out with. I think that Kaplan is good for like understanding the reason, and then maybe if you get like a 32 and you want to go for a 35 or 36, then you can go into some more specific books. But in general, I think that Kaplan is good. Um, Let me see if I can think about some others. Black Book I've heard people say is really really good. Um, I don't really know too much about it. I know Princeton Review is pretty good, but honestly, yeah, for if you're kind of like scoring like mid 20s to high 20s and you want to get over that edge, you want to get that edge, and you're kind of average in everything. You're not having like main difficulties in one specific area. I would just recommend going for a huge Kaplan book or a Princeton Review and just working through it. Um, because if you're needing to improve everything, then there's no point in buying like five different specific ACT books, one for reading, one for English. You just need a big book with everything in it. So I would recommend just do Kaplan and then take the test, and then if you see where you are, and then maybe if you're like me and you say, oh, I did really good in English and math, but my science and reading were kind of meh, then you can work on only improving your science and reading for next time. Um, so yeah, that's kind of what I have to say about the ACT. SAT is kind of the same thing. I don't really know too much about SAT books. Um, I have I have one College Board one that's pretty decent, but I didn't take these or I have this one. I didn't take the SAT, so I don't really know too much about the quality of books there. I'm sure the people on r/AC or SAT can help out a lot, but yeah, most of your studying is going to come from these books or should come from these books just because there's so much info and there's so many that you can do. Um so final thoughts on like the ACT and the SAT. Um for the ACT, never do practice that's not timed. Never do practice that is not timed. Um anybody, not anybody, but most people who take the SA or take the ACT and can do well on it, um can solve the problems no problem if they have 2 hours. They can get a 36 no problem if they have 2 hours. The problem is that the timing, like 40 minutes on reading, or maybe 35, but like roughly 30 minutes on reading is like ridiculous. There's no way that you're going to be able to double check your answers pretty much unless you're reading really fast and answering really fast. So it's more or less getting in the training your mind to be in the groove so that you can answer those questions really fast, move on to the next one, and actually finish on time. Because finishing on time is better than skipping a passage and getting the rest right. Um, you really, really want to give a shot at every question. Uh, that's if you have to skip a passage, even if you get every other right, you're not gonna break 30. Um, so yeah, you really want to give every passage a try. My tip for reading and even science, although for me, in my science was never like that bad for me in timing at least. Um, it's when on reading at least, don't double check an answer really. If you're confident in the answer, if you trust your gut is essentially what I'm saying. Don't like spend 5 minutes looking for the right answer just to figure out that it was the answer that you had in the first 30 seconds. That'll waste you time. That'll you won't finish on time if you do that for every problem that you aren't sure about. You just need to trust your gut and go with it because chances are you're going to be right because you've read the passage. Um, also that also ties to another point. Read the passage before you answer the question. Don't, in my opinion, I don't think writing stuff down like summarizing is good because it wastes time. But if timing somehow isn't an issue for you, then maybe you can. But yeah, so just diagnose that and play that by ear. Um, that would be if you're having trouble on reading and it's not you're and on reading timing, but you're getting the answers. Just trust your gut and don't second guess yourself because it's gonna waste time. The SAT is a little bit different with timing. I know that like it's not nearly as time like it's not a time crunch, not nearly as much of a time crunch as the ACT is. Um, but yeah, I don't. You'd have to consult the SAT Reddit for that because I don't really know much about the SAT in terms of timing and like questions. So that kind of concludes my my thought process about ACT. Now, getting into subject tests. So, subject tests are, in my opinion, I think that subject tests are harder than your ACT or your SAT. Maybe that's just because I'm taking hard subject tests, but I think that like the your subject tests are more difficult just because of the sheer amount of information on a lot of them. Um, so for example, I'm taking the Math 2 and the Physics subject tests. Um, and I've only for Math 2 I finished Calculus BC, so I just need to review a lot of stuff for that one. But for physics, my main problem is that most students, including me, only have taken one physics class. Um, so there's still a lot of information that I need to know. Um, and unfortunately, um, the uh, the physics subject test is it doesn't give you like any formula sheet or it doesn't let you use a calculator or anything. So it's you really just do have to know a lot of the knowledge um, in that aspect. Same thing with like biology and chemistry. They don't really give you formula sheets. I don't even think that chemistry gives you a formula sheet. Um, so yeah, it's just a formula sheet and a periodic table. But like or it's just a periodic table and like abbreviations. So you're really not gonna have that much for the SAT subject tests. Overall, I know biology doesn't give you anything either. So um yeah, you're really just going to have to sit down and study. I think the SAT subject tests are harder to study for simply because it's a lot of knowledge. Unlike the ACT and the SAT, most of the difficulty from the subject test just comes from simply not knowing something. It doesn't come down to timing. It doesn't come down to can you interpret this passage. It just comes down to do you know physics? Do you know chemistry? Um, which is difficult, honestly. Standardizing the test is it's kind of ridiculous, honestly, that they can standardize a massive like subject such as physics and give a test on it. Um, and the worst part is that they include physics too. Like most students that take that test, I assume are not going to have a physics 2 class. Um, at least like I haven't, and most students that I've seen haven't. Because it's all of physics. So there's a lot of information that you have to know, at least for the physics and the chemistry tests. Um, biology is like just take AP Bio pretty much, but yeah. Um, so for those, what I recommend for math two, what I would really recommend is just like don't take the math two subject test unless you have pre-calc. Take pre-calc and then take it because it's like it's just all pre-calc. Um, it really does just require that do you know that? Because if you know it, if you know pre-calc and got an A in that class or whatever, it's just review, and then you just review for it, and then you can take it, and you can probably get an 800 or at least a really high score because the curves on both physics and um, math 2 are quite high. I think you can miss like 15 questions on on the math 2 and physics or in the physics subject test and still get a perfect score. On math 2 you can miss like 6. Um, so the tests are they're not the most difficult to score 800 on, but it really just comes down to how well you know the material. So to study those, there isn't really a good online um, like alternative um to being able to study for them like the ACT and the SAT. You kind of just have to you kind of just have to use books and do practice tests. So for what I would recommend is one, you get the you get your official guides. So for physics, they basically all look like this, except they have like this. They have like the name on it. You get your official SAT subject test, Math 2 or Physics, down there. These are like actual tests, and they're made by the same people that make the test, the College Board. They only have three in them, and they don't teach you anything. Like there is no teaching in it. It's just the test. Um, So these I would really recommend take the test one time or take the test in it one time and then study and then like 2 weeks before start only doing them from this. Okay? Um you really want to save these until you're right up against the wall right before it. Um because they're the most accurate to how well you're going to do. You don't want to just take these all right when you get the book, and take them all first because you're going to be left using Barron's, who I'm about to get into, is not the most predictive. Um, so yeah. So and then secondly, the second book that I would recommend you get is the Barron's subject test. This is the one for Math 2. Let me go back to the one for Physics. Um, This is one for physics. There's a more recent one that I have, but this is what they look like. Um, these books are notoriously difficult. Um, they're just unbelievably hard. Um, for example, like there were 60 questions on the Math 2 test, and you can skip 6. On Barron's, you'd be smart to get above 30. You'd be smart to get like above half of them. If you can get like over 30 right on the Barons, then you should be pretty good for the actual test. Um, like it's just they're difficult. They're very very difficult. But they also include like if you straight up work through it and read all the chapters, you will understand something that you don't understand that you didn't understand before. You could like for physics, for example, like I'm using Barron's because I don't know all of Physics 2, which is on the test. So what I'm doing is I'm reading the book and I'm studying from it and I'm learning Physics 2 stuff that I need for the test. Um Essentially. So these are good for if you want to over prepare for the test and want to if you work from these books and start doing these and do practice outside of it a little bit, you will get an 800 on any test that you take through here because these books are unreal difficult. Um, so yeah. Um, so really that's kind of like what I would recommend is that you just do the Barron's subject test, or you get the Barron's book for them, and then you get the official one. You can also get the Princeton Reviews and all that. The Princeton Review is generally easier than the actual test, but it's a good in it's like just use it to do more practice. That's it. I'm pretty sure they include like actual studying. Yeah, they review over the topics that you need. So these are good. But I really recommend Barron's if you have the time. And you actually you can commit to it. I've never used the Kaplan one, but yeah, Barron's is generally the way to go for subject tests. Um, so yeah. Um, so just remember ACT Reddit, um, ACT Reddit, your UWorld, Crack ACT, and then your two ACT or SAT books. Um, so yeah, that's really all I have to say. I wish you luck on your ACT or your SAT or whatever test you're taking. Um, so yeah, have a good one.